you're doing. You dip into your savings, or you keep spending and put it on credit of some sort. Well, schools don't have credit cards, so their choices are you either dip into your savings or you cut your expenses, right?
Or raise taxes.
Well, and then that's the other thing,
Yeah.
right. And we don't have that option in our personal lives, and so that's the frustration now, is that you've got folks that are saying, whoa, this is getting way out of whack. What are you doing about this? We're looking at these increases, like you said. I know that some of the districts I've been looking at in the paper are looking at 3.5%, 5%, 10%, 15% increases on their tax rates. But it's sort of like, okay, we've got some tough decisions to make. And remember, next Tuesday you have that right to vote. Do you want to keep the programs as they are? Do you feel as a community that you can support an increase in the budget for the time being? These are local issues that have to be grappled with, and the school boards, I'm sure, are all scratching their heads trying to figure out how they're going to deal with all these sorts of things.
Again, as we know, you're not really going to vote on much of the school budget.
Right,
if you turn it over,
absolutely.
All they'll do is cut all the programs.
Right. We used to say between 92 and 94% of the budget is locked in. You just can't get around a lot of that. And where was I going with that? As far as the taxes go, it's, like I say, there's so many things going on, especially in an area where we've got industries pulling out. Your assessments, your base for your value of your community is going down. So if you don't have industry, you don't have companies that can participate as a taxpayer, that means then the burden is coming back on the local homeowner, right?
That's a big problem here.
Right.
The taxes just seem to keep going up, and we can't afford them at this point.
And so people will say, okay, well then go into your savings. And we have something in schools called a fund balance. No problem, that's what it's there for. But the thing is that if you raid your fund balance too hard this year, what's going to happen next year?
You won't have any. You won't have any snow removal stuff.
You're gonna. But I mean, with the schools, if you raid the entire fund balance this year, then you have nothing to go next year. And then if you think taxes are tough this year, it's going to be even worse next year.
We got a caller. Good morning, there, caller. Thank you for waiting. Well, you didn't wait.
No, they can come back.
Okay.
Well, and it's a sad thing because for so many years, all of us that were in education, you were an educator, all the hard work that we did to build our school systems, to get all those good things that we all believe in that are important for kids. You mentioned the trades and the crafts areas. Those things are going to begin to erode because we don't have the funding to maintain those kinds of things. And right now, education across this country, not just New York State, but across the whole country, is in jeopardy. And it's very frustrating for many of us.
It's not a local problem.
No, not at all.
It's a national problem. John, let me ask you something else now. There is a word that they don't like to say, class size.
Right.
Now, that's one way they could change things.
Sure.
Your average class size, what, about 25 to a class?
Probably in Chautauqua County, you're somewhere between 18 and 22.
18, 22. Now, you could take that up to 50, easy, and get rid of about 3 teachers for every class.
I'll argue with you that. You might say, yeah, you could put 50 kids in a classroom. Sure, you could do that.
Yeah.
But there aren't 50 desks in those schools.
Oh, we'd get more desks.
They're
cheaper than teachers.
But you can't.
They're cheaper than teachers.
You've got fire codes. You've got mandates. You've got requirements. You've got the concern for kids. I mean, you can't do that.
Well, if you can't put 50, how about 30?
Well, that's a possibility.
That's a possibility. Any class size can take 35.
Well, and I'm going to tell you right now, if you look at some of the smaller schools, for instance, my hometown, Ripley, the class size has been going up because through attrition, there's like, for instance, one first grade rather than 2. Mm-hmm. I think in Westfield, when I worked over here last year, we reduced down a couple sections of the grade because of they increased the class size because instead of having 18, now they're up to 24 apiece and so on.
Yeah. Well, I remember when I came to Westfield, speaking of that sort of thing, small school, it's a small school. Yeah. It was much smaller when I went there, when I went in elementary. And my father had been in a chief naval attaché, was an ambassador to Chile. And we had a nice place to stay and private tutors. And I'd been tutored through my normal kindergarten years. And so I said, well, we'll put them in first grade. And after a couple of weeks in first grade, I remember Miss Carpenter, who was a teacher, came over to me, tapped me and said, Reed, want you on the other side of the room, because that's second grade.
You've
And
just
I was
been
promoted just like that. And of course, I was the youngest kid in the class from there on in.
Right.
Just about, anyway.
But anyways, so that's part of a solution, and I really truly believe that's what you're seeing, because you're seeing, for instance, the Jamestowns, the Fredonias, and so forth. They're cutting staff all over the place. I mean, I've seen some school districts, they would cut the equivalent of an entire Westfield or Ripley out of their school. Just pluck it right out between your custodians, your bus drivers, your teachers, and so forth. I mean, they're having to make those hard decisions, and they're doing just that. They're tightening their belts up, and still taxes are going up.
No,
And that's the frustration here.
Let's get back the old stump in the woods, that would work. It's cheap. Teach them outside. Forget those.
Call your
close
guys
the
at
school.
the Department of Education, get them to roll back on that mandate. You did it with the DEC, huh?
Yeah, they immediately complain.
By the way, folks, you can't believe the aroma in this studio right now.
Oh, it's wonderful. Look at
leeks
this.
are killing me.
Look what I'm going to do here. I got a brand new leek.
There he goes.
Oh, that is delicious.
But, and the other piece that I want to point out to people, and I did a presentation
love 'em.
the other day on education to some folks, is that what you're seeing are people coming in what I call the pitchforks and the torches to school boards, because that's where they're angry about the situation, the whole situation, not just schools, but just the financial situation in America today. And where can you vote on taxation? The only place you can right now is at schools, right?
That's right. And
So
again,
that's-
you don't vote on much. We pointed out.
But they do have a right to vote there, and we got a phone call. And but that's the whole point, is that they're really unleashing on these folks, and I encourage people to stay civil and be calm and ask good questions. I guess we have a caller.
Do we have a caller?
Yes.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning
what's-
on this beautiful sunshiny day, and it's supposed to be nice. for
Isn't
all
it nice
kids.
out there?
Wonderful.
What a day.
Wonderful out.
What a day.
I got my tax, or not my tax, my school budget. Our school sends out the budget and so forth, so that you'll have the information you
Right.
need to vote on come voting day, which is shortly, Tuesday, I believe.
Tuesday. Mhm.
Yes. From the way I'm reading it, which I can't hardly believe this, but it looks like the budget for this year is smaller than the budget for last year.
That could be.
And I'm very, very, very proud of the school board if this is so, because it certainly is bucking a trend, which over the years has been every year it gets a little more and a little more and a little more.
Mm-hmm.
And I, for one, will probably vote for it, although I'm going to double check it again because I might have made
Yeah,
a
they have
mistake.
tricky figures here. You got to be careful.
Well, it's
Yeah, I'm
not
going to
their
say,
fault.
I for one,
It's
might
the
have
way-
made a mistake. I usually have to go over it a couple times. to make
Yeah.
sure
Well, they're
my
forced to report it in a way that's not real clear. The state has set up your friends there in Albany.
Yeah, not my friends.
But
Excepting one. I think we
Kathy.
have a Kathy Young is a sweetheart.
The
she's done a
problem
lot.
is, as I read it right now, which I could be mistaken, but as I'm reading it right now, it looks like it's going to cost less for the school budget this year than it did last year. But how can we know this when, well, A, we don't have a budget for the state yet, so we have no idea what they're going to be doling out. And the last I heard, one of the big cuts was going to be in education.
That's what they always cut.
And so it's how can our little school know what their budget's going to be when a lot of their budget is predicated on what they're going to get from the state?
Okay, well, each year the governor will put out his projections for state aid, and that's usually what we call the worst case scenario. And since there is no budget in place, which is sad to see again, most people will use that figure as the bottom. And if things were to change in Albany, sometimes the Senate and the Assembly can get a little bit more. So that would be a little bit better scenario. But the worst case scenario, as we say, is with the governor's proposal that generally comes out in January. So we do have some figures, and then well, like you say, can you imagine running your household like that? Is based on figures that you're not even sure about. Even your own town assessments, you don't even know till August. So you're taking a shot at that. So this is what keeps superintendents and board members up at night and losing sleep, because we make our best guesses on what we're given from the governor and what we know from our assessment departments in our local towns.
That answer? Well, thank you, caller. Yeah, you said superintendent's boards don't get much sleep. Why? You've been both.
Right.
You've been superintendent
both.
and a board member at the same time.
No, 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 no. I was an administrator at BOCES, and then I became
A superintendent of BOCES.
and then not superintendent. I was like a regional administrator, but I was board president of Ripley, and then I resigned and became superintendent all on the same night. Never
you've
at the
been
same
through it.
time.
Why on God's earth would anybody want to serve on a school board? They're caught between the devil and the deep blue sea. The taxpayers angry at them. The parents are angry at them. The teachers are angry at them. They're